To the report he released from that polygraph test. Stormy Daniels was, and I'm quoting here, truthful about having unprotected vaginal intercourse with Donald Trump in July of 2006. That's a quote, I guess, from the polygrapher. One reminder about the polygraphs are not generally admissible, of course, in court. Michael, why release this information about the polygraph? Because, as you said, it's not admissible in court. So does it help your legal case, actually?
Well, I don't know that it helps our legal case, but we want the public to have as many facts as possible at their disposal. Our position, Anderson, has been consistent for weeks now. We want the public to know the facts, to know my client's story. To the extent that Mr. Cohen or the president have an alternative narrative that they wish to provide, they should provide it. You know, I'll note that while lie detector tests are not admissible in most courts of law, I believe the Attorney General has most recently argued for the use as it relates to leaks from the White House. I know they're used throughout law enforcement, federal law enforcement, for various purposes at various times. My client took this polygraph test in May of 2011, May 19th, 2011. She was asked specific questions. She passed with flying colors, as the polygraph report that we produced shows. So we're going to let the American public take this piece of evidence together with your interview with her this Sunday on 60 Minutes. They're going to determine whether she's telling the truth, whether she's credible, and I'm confident that after they view that interview and after they view this evidence, they are going to conclude that what they've been told by Mr. Cohen and the denials, if you can call them denials, from the White House are simply baseless and false.
So, David, Michael Cohen has claimed that he paid this $130,000 in hush money out of his own pocket from a home and equity line of credit. He did it, had nothing to do with the Trump organization, nothing to do with Donald Trump personally or the White House. I mean, does any attorney ever pay $130,000 out of their own pocket?
First of all, we keep labeling it as hush money. It's pursuant to a non-disclosure agreement. These non-disclosure agreements are entered into every single day in America. They're entered into by politicians,
but it's money to remain
CEOs.
Silent.
So, but it's money to not disclose the substance of the case.
Okay.
And so $130,000 was paid. It was pursuant to a contract. But to answer your question, is that normal course of business for an attorney to pay it? No, but there's nothing illegal about it. And given the context of this relationship, there's certainly nothing unethical about it. And remember, Michael Cohen was representing EC LLC. It was EC LLC that entered into this contract. Donald Trump was a third-party beneficiary.
Does that make sense to you?
It doesn't. Donald Trump was not a third-party beneficiary under the law of California. He was a signatory to the agreement. What Mr. Cohen has said is as follows, that he negotiated this on his own, that he undertook all of this effort, and that at no point in time did his close friend and client, Donald Trump, know anything about it. He didn't know about the negotiation, he didn't know about the agreement, and he didn't know about the payment. I have a very simple question, Anderson. If all of that is believable, then why did Mr. Cohen draft an agreement with a signature line for Donald Trump? If Donald Trump was never going to be a party to the agreement, and if he didn't want to bother Donald Trump with the agreement, and if Donald Trump was too busy campaigning for president to know anything about the agreement, and Mr. Cohen was going to do this on his own and wasn't going to bother Mr. Trump, then why take the effort to draft the agreement to make Donald Trump a signatory to the agreement?
David,
that's painting a fictional picture of the whole scenario. There's an or there, so it could be EC LLC.
Right, but why have any line for Donald Trump?
Because they left it open. They left it open for either or. But the bottom line is,
what does that mean?
EC LLC entered into the contract.
But he's saying if Donald Trump had nothing to do with this, why have a line for
He has everything to do with it. He was a third-party beneficiary. You're just not acknowledging that fact, that he's a third-party beneficiary to this contract. He doesn't have to be a party to the contract to benefit from the contract, but he certainly can enforce the contract like a third-party beneficiary can, and this is a contract, and you are advising your client to blatantly violate a contract. And you know what? She's liable for $20 million. And this is an airtight contract. An airtight contract, $1 million per violation. And it's not just the disclosure.
Where do you get the $20 million figure?
Because there were, well, if you read,
are you talking about her appearances on the Make America Horny tour?
No. There are 20 different violations, and you could see it because in the contract, as it was artfully crafted, it's even the threat of a violation. It's even the threat of disclosure is a violation under the contract. So she's going to be liable for $20 million, and Michael Cohen is going to collect every single penny of that money. Make no mistake.
Michael?
He's going to collect everything.
Anderson, why isn't your name on the contract? Why isn't my name on the contract? Why isn't his name on the contract? If Mr. Cohen's to be believed, all of our names should be on the contract. The fact of the matter is the story does not hold up. And Section 8.6 of the agreement specifically required all parties to sign the agreement. I didn't interrupt you. I didn't interrupt you during your bombastic comments. Please let me finish. 8.6 of the agreement provides that all parties are to sign the agreement. All parties did not sign the agreement. Here's another reason why this argument is full of holes. There are specific provisions in the agreement, consideration, that only Donald Trump could provide. It's not just about the $130,000.
What do you mean specific consideration?
If you look at the agreement, in exchange for what my client was to provide, she was to receive $130,000 plus other things. What do I mean by that? Donald Trump was to release her of potential claims that he might have against her. Donald Trump was to agree to stay away from her and her family. Donald Trump was to do all sorts of things laid out in that agreement. Now, Mr. Cohen, if he was only representing ECLLC as the claim has been made, how could he release or how could he provide that consideration, those terms that my client bargained for?
This is an absurd view of contract law.
But how can Michael Cohen promise that Donald Trump would follow through on these things?
Because the consideration here is the non-disclosure of whatever she's about to disclose in exchange for $130,000.
But he's saying it's more than $130,000.
There's consideration. There's two parties to the contract. Both parties sign the contract. But
how can Michael Cohen promise that Donald Trump is not going to go